हा हा स्वरूप सनातना रूपा रघुनाथा भट्टा जुगा श्रीजीवा प्रभु लोकनाथा दया करो श्री आचार्य प्रभु श्रीनिवास रामचंद्र संग मांगे नरोत्तम दासा Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More Toma Bina Ke Doyalu Jagata Samsare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Garanitai Jaya Garanitai Jaya Garanitai Jaya Garanitai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada जय श्री राधा गोवर्धन धारी भगवान की जय कृष्णा बलराम भगवान की जय गिरिराज महाराज की नरसिंहदेव भगवान की श्री श्री गौरानिताय भगवान की श्रीला प्रभुपाद की गौर प्रेमानंदी जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So today we are reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 17, verses 77 and 78. So we'll recite verse 78 because this has a purport, and this is the main verse of discussion today. So please repeat after me. Vaham daridra papiyan Kwa Krishna Shri Niketanaha Brahma Bandhur iti smaham Bahubhyam parirambitaha Vaham daridra papiyan Kwa Krishna Shri Niketanaha Brahma Bandhuriti smaham Bahubhyam parirambitaha Vaham daridra papiyan Kwa Krishna Shri Niketanaha Brahma Bandhuriti smaham Bahubhyam parirambitaha. Prabhus. Vaham daridra papiyan Kwa Krishna Shri Niketanaha Brahma Bandhuriti smaham Bahubhyam parirambitaha. Vaham daridra papiyan Kwa Krishna Shri Niketanaha Brahma Bandhuriti smaham Bahubhyam parirambitaha. Va, whereas, aham, I am, daridraha, very poor, papiyan, sinful, va, whereas, Krishnaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Niketanaha, the reservoir of the Goddess of Fortune, Brahma Bandhuhu, a caste Brahmana without Brahmanical qualifications, Iti, thus, Sma, certainly, Aham, I am, Bhadubhyam, by the arms, Parambitaha, embraced. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Since I am but a poor, sinful Brahma Bandhu, not Brahmanically qualified, although born in a Brahmana family, And you, Lord Krishna, are the shelter of the goddess of fortune. It is simply wonderful, my dear Lord Krishna, that you have embraced me with your arms. Please repeat after me. Since I am but a poor, sinful Brahma Bandhu, not Brahmanically qualified, although born in a Brahmana family, and you, Lord Krishna, are the shelter of the goddess of fortune, it is simply wonderful, my dear Lord Krishna, that you have embraced me with your arms. So I'll read the purport, and then we'll go back to verse 77 to just read that out. So this verse today that's on the board and that we have just recited is verse 78 from chapter 17 of the Adi Leela. And this verse is taken from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 81, verse 16. And who is speaking this verse is Sudama Brahmin, Sudama Vipra, in the presence of Lord Sri Krishna. This and the previous verse quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam clearly indicate that although Krishna is so great that it is not possible for anyone to satisfy him, he exhibits his greatness by being personally satisfied even with one who is disqualified from so many angles of vision. Sudama Vipra was born in a family of Brahmanas, and he was a learned scholar and a class friend of Krishna. Yet he considered himself unfit to be Brahmana. He called himself a Brahma Bandhu, meaning one born in a Brahmana family, but not Brahmanically qualified. Because of his great respect for Brahmanas, however, Krishna embraced Sudama Vipra, although he was not a regular Brahmana, but a Brahma Bandhu, or a friend of the Brahmana family. Murari Gupta could not be called even a Brahma Bandhu because he was born of a Vaidya family, and according to the social structure was therefore considered a Shudra. But Krishna bestowed special mercy upon Murari Gupta because he was a beloved devotee of the Lord, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The purport of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's elaborate discussion of this subject is that no qualification in this material world can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yet everything becomes successful simply through development of devotional service to the Lord. The members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness cannot even call themselves Brahma Bandhus. Therefore, our only means for satisfying Krishna is to pursue the injunctions of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who says, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amara agyana guru hana tara edesh. Whomever you meet, instruct him on the teachings of Krishna. In this way, on my order, become a spiritual master and deliver the people of this country. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 7:128. Simply trying to follow the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we speak to the people of the world about Bhagavad Gita as it is. This will make us qualified to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha. So today I'll be talking on verse 77 and 78, and 77 doesn't actually have a purport, so I'll just recite the verse and then you can actually repeat the translation after me. Murari ke kaha tumi Krishna vasa kaila, suniya murari shloka kahite lalaya. Lord Chaitanya then praised Murari Gupta, saying, You have satisfied Lord Krishna. Hearing this, Murari Gupta quoted a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So please repeat after me. Lord Chaitanya then praised Murari Gupta, saying, "You have satisfied Lord Krishna." Hearing this, Murari Gupta quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is the verse that he quoted, which is on the board. So, okay. So what's happening, I'll just bring us up to speed quickly, is we are on chapter 17 of the Adi Leela. And this is the last chapter of the Adi Leela. We know the Chaitanya Charitamrita is divided into three parts, the Adi, the Madhya, and the Antya. So the Adi Leela, this is the last chapter that we are on. This chapter is titled Pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in His Youth. And so in this chapter, what we find as we are reading the chapter is that it's describing the different pastimes. It's describing the different pastimes, and it's actually describing it quite quickly. Like it's the pastimes are being covered very briefly as we are going along. Like for example, today we are in 77 and 78. So like in 76, just the verse covered last class, another pastime is being described. And before that, in the verse, another pastime is being described. So why these are being covered briefly and not in great detail is because there is this other book called the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavatam, this one. And in this book, some of the pastimes are described in a lot of detail. So this book is written by Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, and because of respect for the fact that the pastimes have already been covered, the author of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, he covers it briefly because he doesn't want to repeat and be disrespectful. So things have been covered very quickly as to what Lord Chaitanya has done in his youth, so what's happening now is that Lord Chaitanya praised Murari Gupta, and he said to him, "You have satisfied Lord Krishna." And then Murari Gupta quoted a verse from the Bhagavatam. And he's saying, so in this verse, which Murari Gupta quoted, he is pretty much equating himself to Sudama Vipra. So Sudama is, and that's what this verse is saying, 78, which is originally from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sudama was saying that I am a very poor and sinful Brahma Bandhu. I'm not really qualified, but Krishna, you are so great and so magnanimous. You are very wonderful, and you have actually embraced me. So he is feeling very unqualified, Sudama Vipra. So do we know who Sudama is? Does anybody know who Sudama is? No? Yes. Yes. That's right. So Sudama is Krishna's childhood friend, and they went to school together. They were classmates. And there is a famous pastime that what happened is one time their guru, Sandipani Muni, he sent Krishna and Sudama out to the forest to collect firewood. Do you know this pastime? And then they went to the forest to collect firewood, and a big storm came. So Krishna and Sudama were stuck in the forest in the storm. And they were properly stuck. They couldn't get back to the Gurukul, which is their guru's house. And it was raining and storming and very dark, and they climbed a tree. And I think they actually spent the whole night there. And Sudama had a little something to eat, but he didn't share it with Krishna. So they spent the night, and then eventually the next day their guru found them and took them back home. And so it's actually said that although it's not discussed so much, but it's actually said that because Sudama hadn't shared with Krishna, he ended up very poor. So we know that then Sudama got married, and he was trying to maintain himself doing Brahminical things. And back in those days, like if you were born in a family, like you were thought to, you were thought to have the same qualities, which is false, which I'll talk about a bit later. So Sudama basically was trying to maintain himself, his wife, and his children by reciting scriptures and doing Brahminical things like that. Being an advisor, that sort of thing. But he was very, very poor, and they were suffering. They were not having enough to eat. And what happened is his wife continuously begged him that you are Krishna's dear friend. Why don't you go to Krishna and ask him to help us? So after many, many such requests, Sudama eventually went to Krishna, and he was so poor that his wife had to beg some dry rice from the neighbors to give as a gift. So he took this, and he walked all the way to Krishna's palace, and there he was treated very, very wonderfully. Krishna and Rukmini themselves, Rukmini is Krishna's first queen, they put Sudama on their bed, and it's described the bed had a bed sheet that was as white as the foam of milk, and they washed his feet. Krishna washed and massaged his feet, and Rukmini fanned him, and Krishna embraced him. So this is what Sudama is talking about then, and he's saying that I'm so fallen, I'm not even a proper Brahmin, but I'm just a friend of the Brahmanas, yet you have given me such love and embraced me. And so in a similar way, so coming back to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Murari Gupta is feeling like this too. He's feeling that I'm not so qualified, but Krishna is happy with me. So let's just talk about Murari Gupta a little bit. So Murari Gupta is described in this translation, in this purport, is that he couldn't even be called a friend of the Brahmanas because he was born of a Vaidya family, and according to social structure was therefore considered a Shudra. But Krishna gave special mercy upon Murari Gupta because he was a beloved devotee of the Lord, as Lord Chaitanya has stated. Okay, so Murari Gupta, he was actually older than Lord Chaitanya, and a little bit older. And this word here that he came from a Vaidya family, it's a Bengali or Sanskrit word, and it means physician, doctors. So he came from a doctor family, and it's only apparently in that part of Sylhet, he was actually from Sylhet, that in that part of the world that they have a special caste almost of doctors, it could be said, and that it's not really any other place in India is described. And that because he came from this sort of family, a Shudra is somebody who's considered to be somebody who serves everybody else. So he wasn't a Kshatriya or a Brahmin or a Vaishya, he was a Shudra, according to the social structure. And therefore he considered himself very fallen as well, Murari Gupta. And Murari Gupta, he and Lord Chaitanya, they went to the same school, although Murari Gupta was older. And Murari Gupta, in his Ishta Devata is Lord Ramchandra, not Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna, because Murari Gupta, he is expansion of Hanuman. So So what had happened is that the story behind this as to why Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya were saying to Murari Gupta that we are pleased with you, we are happy with you, is that Murari Gupta, he had, so Lord Chaitanya had said to him, also before that actually, so Murari Gupta, what he did is he wrote, so between him and Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, they have covered most of all of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And Murari Gupta, he wrote the childhood or the youth, like the initial pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, the first half of Lord Chaitanya's life. So these are mostly from, like all of the things that we know about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is from Murari Gupta's books. And then the second half of Lord Chaitanya's life is in more detail given by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj. So the book that Murari Gupta wrote was called Sri Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya. And as we know, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, he wrote this book, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So between these two books, we have the life story of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what had happened that gave Murari Gupta the satisfaction and the mercy of Lord Krishna is that Lord Chaitanya said, as we know, Lord Chaitanya came and he was a hidden incarnation. Not many people knew that he was Krishna himself. Originally, not many people knew. After his Mahaprakash Leela, whereby for 21 hours he showed his different forms, then many people got to know that he is actually Krishna. So what happened is one time, before he showed himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, before the Mahaprakash Leela, one time he said to Murari Gupta, he entreated him and he said to him, "Can you please worship Krishna?" And Murari Gupta, as I've mentioned, he was actually Hanuman. His original, like his form is Hanuman in Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. So as we know, Bhakta Hanuman is a very, very, very devoted servant of Lord Ramachandra. And he is the main personality who went to rescue Mother Sita. And, very powerful Varna. And so for Murari Gupta to be given this request, when he was so attached and so devoted to Lord Ramachandra, he felt great pain in his heart. He was very pained. And all night he was thinking, how am I going to fulfill this? It's going to be very difficult. How am I actually going to start worshipping Lord Krishna and leave behind Lord Ramachandra's worship? How am I going to do this? And he felt attraction to Krishna, because we know Lord Krishna and Lord Rama are one and the same, but just in different forms. Then, and all night he was crying and lamenting and thinking, I can't really start worshipping Lord Krishna. He was too attached to Lord Ramachandra. So the next morning he came to Lord Chaitanya and he said to him that, I'm so sorry, I am a great offender, but I cannot take your request. If I don't follow your request, I'm going to be like so offensive, because you've requested me to worship Lord Krishna. I just can't do it. And he was like, and he had actually resolved to take his own life over this. He'd actually thought, I can't do it. I don't want to offend Lord Chaitanya. I'm just going to do away with myself. So he was, to that point, he was thinking, it's something I can't do. And so when he said this to Lord Chaitanya the next day, Lord Chaitanya was very, very pleased. And he said that, well, you've proven yourself to be such a dedicated servant of Lord Ramachandra. Please just worship Lord Ramachandra. And I was actually, Lord Chaitanya was just kind of testing him. So this is why Murari Gupta is mentioned in these two verses, and that and that he was very pleased, that the Lord was very pleased by his devotion, by such unbroken devotion. So, then let's just talk about a few points mentioned in this purport. Is that if we look at it, like there's a lot of social structure and castes and classes and all those things mentioned. So, like Sudama, he was born in a Brahmin family, but he did not think himself to be Brahmanically qualified. And what are the qualifications of a Brahmin? So it's mentioned in that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Shama Dhamma Tapasocham. That verse in the Bhagavad Gita, it explains all the qualities that a Brahman is supposed to have: tolerance, humility, learning, all these things, and austerity. So Sudama did have all these things, but he was very humble. So he didn't really consider himself a Brahmin, proper Brahmin, although he came from a family of Brahmins. So one thing to talk about here is that even though and similar, Murari Gupta as well, like he was born in a family of physicians, and therefore, like that was their trade. So he also became a doctor, a physician. And there's a lot said about him as to he was not just a healer of physical ailments, but also a healer of spiritual ailments, because he was a devotee of the Lord, etc. So we look at what is being described is that they're both thinking they're great devotees of the Lord, both of them, Sudama and Murari Gupta, yet both of them are considering themselves to be very fallen, and they are saying that, oh, I was born in this family, oh, don't really have these qualities, so I'm not really qualified, I'm not really fit. However, the only qualification that the Lord considers is devotion and devotional service. So it doesn't really matter what material qualifications one has or doesn't have. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't even count. So when we come, to the temple, like you can sometimes really feel, all the false designations, all the false roles, all just being taken away one after another. It's like, okay, here I am, Krishna, I'm just your servant, and I'm just standing in front of you. So it doesn't really even matter what we do for a living in the world and what our qualities are, really, to some extent, as long as we are serving the Lord and we are serving Him with love and devotion. And that's the only thing that the Lord considers to be of any value. So even though these two great devotees, out of their humility, they're saying that we are not really qualified, the Lord is pleased with both of them. Not just pleased, but very, very pleased, because they are very devotional and they are doing favorable devotional service. So, and devotional service is really the only means to earn the mercy of the Lord. So, let's just talk about something mentioned over here, that he considered himself a Brahma Bandhu, meaning like a friend of the Brahmanas, but not really a full Brahmin myself. That I'm favorable, this is what Sudama Vipra was considering himself, that I'm not really a full Brahmin, and so he was. So what I was trying to say earlier is that even though we are born, like say I've got children now, and as a profession I practice medicine. So it's not automatic that my children will also become doctors. However, that was the case, previously, that if you were born in a family of lawyers, you'd become a lawyer, family of doctors, you'd become a doctor, like that. So this is how the whole Vaidya group, or the Vaidya caste happened, which is why it's described that he came from a Vaidya family. So, we can see that today, like in surnames, we have different people have different surnames, and some of them are like John Drinkwater, or Smith, or different names, and the surnames mean something. Like somebody was telling me the other day. Oh yeah. Actually, okay, it's one of the devotees who was telling me. So, anyway, he was saying that my family name is this, and it's because back in the day when we came from the UK, my ancestors used to make beer. So, long time ago, the ancestors used to make and ferment beer, and so he said, this is why this is my name. And so if you think about it, like different, so this is what it was. Like you were born in that family, you were expected to do the job. And actually in India now we still see that, in that, if you're a shopkeeper in Loi Bazaar, you've got a stall, then your son's going to take over that stall. So it's kind of like, it's in the family, you just continue on the family business sort of thing. But it's not necessary according to qualities, is it? Like, if we think about, like I was talking about my children, so I might have the skills to become a doctor, but maybe my children don't. Like maybe their qualities are different. Maybe they like drawing, maybe they like dancing, and if I forced them to become a doctor just because I am one, then it could be detrimental to their health. And so this is what's being said, is that for a person, it's not about the caste, it's not about the family that you are born in. Everything depends on your qualities, and that's the essence that we have. That what qualities do you possess? What's your natural inclinations? That what is your psychophysical nature? And you serve Krishna. Why is it important to know that? Is because if we know what we are good at and what we have an affinity to, that we can use that nicely in Krishna's service. And that we can feel that we are naturally situated, and that we are not being pressured or pushed, and that we won't get burnt out, and that we can serve and serve and serve and not get tired doing that thing. So that's what our natural ability is. So this is why it is important to know what our psychophysical nature is, like what am I capable of, what is my psyche, what do I like doing, and is it favorable to Krishna consciousness, and can I use it in devotional service. So it's all ultimately dependent on quality, and not really the family that one is born in. Like Prabhupada spoke several times in his classes about caste brahmanas, about caste Goswamis, often he would say, that you can't become a Goswami, which means master of the senses. You can't become a Goswami by just being born in a family and having that surname. That just like you can't really start making beer because you've got that surname, even though you're born in this family that used to make beer. So, it's all dependent on the qualities of an individual. So, here we see by example that two great devotees of the Lord, they are being so humble. And what we tend to do is the opposite, is we tend to say, well, I'm born in a great family. My family lineage is doctors and this. And, like we tend to do the opposite. So what we are being taught in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because it is like, you might have seen there's so many different names mentioned and so many different relationships mentioned. So one of the reasons for this is we are really being given this great opportunity to learn by example from these great devotees as to how we should be behaving as devotees as well. Is that we shouldn't really be, as these two devotees are demonstrating, that we shouldn't really be very proud of our family background, of this and that, but instead what we should strive for is becoming qualified as a devotee, having the loving, having actual favorable, like having genuine love. Like Srila Prabhupada says in his class that, Ravan, he and also Kamsa, that they both thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead all the time. They were thinking, like if we think of Kamsa, Krishna's maternal uncle, he was like constantly thinking of Krishna. And he got mad, like he was just, everywhere he was just seeing Krishna, because he was fearful of his life, that Krishna is going to come and kill me. And he just couldn't get Krishna out of his head. But he was thinking of Krishna in an unfavorable way. So even though he was remembering Krishna, he was doing it in an unfavorable way. We are supposed to do the opposite. We are supposed to think of Krishna in a favorable way, in an actual favorable way. And Prabhupada says that our main business is how to make friendship with Krishna. So, sometimes when I'm doing arti on my altar, and I'm thinking, waving the incense, am I really Krishna's friend? Like, have I really got those friendship, those soft, nice friendship feelings? Or am I like, Krishna, here's your arti for the day, here you go, let me move on to the next thing, Or is it just being done as a duty, as an obligation? So we are actually genuinely meant to want to please Krishna. That Krishna hears your arti, I hope you are enjoying the incense, you deserve this, you're the Supreme Lord. Having this genuine love and affection for Krishna is what Prabhupada says is what we need to do. So without sort of, having negativity in it. So having that qualification and love and devotion to the Lord is the benchmark that is going to be our true qualification, that is actually going to take us back to Goloka Vrindavan, and that by developing this right mood and by developing devotional service to the Lord, that's how everything becomes successful. Everything becomes successful. We don't really need, that's the true success, that we don't really need any other qualification in this material world, and nothing else can satisfy Krishna except for devotional service. Now, something that I found very funny in this purport was that, that the members of ISKCON, it is said, now Prabhupada is saying this, not me, Prabhupada is saying, the members of ISKCON cannot even call themselves friends of the Brahmanas. So, if we are thinking that we are in ISKCON and, we are so special, we know the truth, and all of that, well, Prabhupada is saying we can't even call ourselves friends of the Brahmanas because we, so basically what he's saying, we're not very qualified if we look at our backgrounds, is what Prabhupada is saying. But if we, the only qualification we have, which is of any value in our lives, is having love and devotion for Krishna. And so Prabhupada is saying to us very clearly that the only means we have of satisfying Krishna is to follow the instructions of Lord Chaitanya, and the instructions of Lord Chaitanya are that we should be teaching people, that we should be preaching. This is what Lord Chaitanya came to do. And, there's like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita early on in the Adi Lila, like the Chaitanya tree is described. And the Chaitanya tree is basically said to be this tree, and Lord Chaitanya is the tree and the main trunk of it, and that he is also the gardener, and this tree has lots and lots of fruit, and the fruit is love of Godhead, and that Lord Chaitanya is distributing this fruit out to everybody, and we are supposed to be helping him distribute this fruit. And this is the only thing that will please Lord Chaitanya, that we actually need to distribute this fruit of love of Godhead, and by doing this we will please him. And so this is what Prabhupada is saying here, that this verse he is mentioning, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amara agyana guru hana tara edesh. That in this country, just whoever you meet, instruct him on the teachings of Krishna, and in this way become a spiritual master and deliver the people of this country. So Prabhupada is talking about himself, and he's saying that I'm simply trying to follow the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so I'm speaking to the people of the world about Bhagavad Gita as it is, and that this will make us qualified to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So to whatever extent we can, we are being urged to preach, like very strongly. It's pretty amazing, like after saying everything that devotional service satisfies the Lord. And we know that devotional service has 9 different processes. We know that. There's, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all the 9 different processes of devotional service. And that is the only means to satisfy the Lord. There's no other qualification. But on top of all of that, the main devotional service that we are being really told to do is to preach. And in this way spread Krishna consciousness, spread the movement, because remember what we are doing then is we are helping Lord Chaitanya distribute the fruit. And Lord Chaitanya is therefore very, very pleased when we do this. So, just going back a step then, before we start preaching, before we can give, we need to have, don't we? So, like if somebody's asking for $5 and I actually don't have it, I can't really give it. So, before we can give Krishna to somebody, before we can preach, we actually need to have it ourselves. And how can we have it? We can have it by following the 4 principles and by chanting, following the regulative principles, chanting our Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, our 16 rounds every day, and by cultivating true, genuine emotions for Krishna and for Radharani, of course, because she's the feminine, she's God equally as Krishna is in a female form. So by developing this love of Godhead ourselves is the only way we can actually give this love of Godhead to others. So to do that, we basically need to chant our rounds very nicely. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting it clearly, chanting it nicely, listening to the sound, and following the 4 principles, accepting everything that is favorable to devotional service, rejecting everything that is unfavorable, like, those 6 principles that Rupa Goswami has given us of surrender. So doing all of these things, following the examples and the instructions in the scriptures that these great devotees have given us, we can purify ourselves, we can qualify ourselves. And that's the only thing that matters in Krishna's eyes, is not how much, material possessions and material prestige and status we have. It doesn't really matter to Krishna. What matters is how much love and devotion we have, and that is actually the main aim of human life. So we know these things, we just need to really imbibe it and practice it, and we know practice makes perfect, and then we can give, and we can give nicely. So, however, we must also remember that it doesn't matter if I joined yesterday, like if I just started chanting yesterday, it doesn't really matter. Whatever level I am at, I can still, just do my best and preach to whatever extent I can. Like, we have that story that somebody became a devotee, and they came to the temple and they said, well, I was at a bar and I was drinking beer with my friends after work, and one of my friends said to me that I've just started chanting, or I heard the Hare Krishnas on the street and this is what they were chanting, and he repeated the mantra and he said, this is the book they gave, and he pushed the Bhagavad Gita towards him, and then this friend became a devotee, So that's the Varatma Pradakshina Guru, somebody who has shown the path of devotional service. That friend acted in that way. So, even though he was like just drinking in a bar and not chanting Hare Krishna himself, but he was able to show the path to somebody else who then took it seriously and started practicing. So it doesn't. So we shouldn't feel disqualified. We shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm just not really able to say anything. But whatever we have, we can share. And whatever we know, we can just share. And that way, we will please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. Does anybody have anything they would like to say? Any questions or comments or any clarifications or additions?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mataji, for your explanation. And my question is, you mentioned that in Varnashrama, a son of a doctor doesn't have to be a doctor. But if we relate it to a family of devotees, children in a family of devotees, do they have to be devotees, or will they become devotees, or could you please elaborate a little bit? Because we know that in some families of devotees, children are not devotees. And devotees can come from the non-devotional family. How does that work? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So I'll try to answer best I can. So, so many of us here are, from maybe our parents were devotees, and many of us are parents of children who we are trying to make into devotees, or who are devotees. So what happens is it's not necessary. It doesn't happen automatically, as we know. It depends on, again, the qualities of the child. Like, Krishna had a son who wasn't a devotee. He was actually a demon. Lord Krishna had a son. What was his name again? He's the whole reason that the Lord Varaha pastime happened. I can't remember his name. But so it's not necessary that even though we are practicing devotional service and we have children, that they will automatically become devotees. And also we see the example of Bhakt Prahlad. Like his father was a demon, Hiranyakashipu, but he became the greatest devotee of the Lord. So so it doesn't happen automatically necessarily. However, the potency, all the practices, the devotional practices that we are doing, like chanting, like having prasadam, doing devotional service, all of that, they're very, very powerful. And they leave impressions in the mind of children who actually, for different reasons, they might be angry with their parents, or they might have had bad experiences with other devotees. For whatever reason, they might not be inclined to actually practice devotional things. However, the impressions are there, and in their hearts we find that they actually are, they know the philosophy very well, and they understand it. They love Krishna so much, and that when the time comes, that when they are in tight situations, they actually fall back on Krishna, because there is nothing else that they know, sort of thing. So it's said that if when somebody is under pressure, what comes out is what's inside that person. Just like when you squeeze an orange, like the orange is under pressure, you get orange juice, not apple juice. So in the same way, what's inside that orange is orange juice, and what's inside people is, if it is Krishna consciousness, that's what's going to come out. And we can really see the true nature of somebody is when they are in distress. So it's not necessary that it will happen automatically, but as parents, our main role is to try as much as possible to give our dependents Krishna in favorable ways, so that they don't get burnt out and push too hard. Give them Krishna in favorable ways so that they can take it up independently. Because when they're children, they come along to the temple with us, they do things that we are doing, and just because they're following us, they don't have a choice. But as they grow older, then they have to make that choice for themselves, that, okay, I actually want to go to the temple, actually want to chant Hare Krishna. And, it won't happen if we force them. Many times it's been found that, if parents actually force, that just burns the child out completely, and they just don't want to even touch the beads. It's post-traumatic stress sort of thing. Yes? Yeah.
There were nuns there, and they were pretty ordinary nuns. They plucked their brows, and some of them smoked cigarettes and things, and it didn't leave an impression on me. And then some nuns came from Africa. They were preaching nuns, and they were electric. They were charismatic, and I was so attracted to them. I wanted to become a nun, and it made me realize that if you wanted to inspire someone, you needed to walk the talk yourself. You needed to have that connect to the electricity, and then the rest would happen automatically.
Yeah.
And even in New Age philosophy, they talk about, quantum field. If you see things around you and it's negative, it's a reflection of yourself. You could transpose that theory to, if you want to be surrounded by devotees, electric, inspired youth, then you would onus would be on you to be connected and enthused, and then automatically the rest, you wouldn't even have to do anything.
Yes. Thank you very much for that insight. That's wonderful. It's true. It's all about association at the end of the day, all about association and having good examples. So what has actually disillusioned many people is devotees behaving badly. If you're a devotee, you're supposed to be electric. You're supposed to be connected. You're supposed to be walking the talk and, be following. And if you're not, then that disillusions many people. So this is why we need to be good examples, because ultimately we are a preaching movement, and we need to be able to inspire people to, including our own children, to join out of their free will and to practice out of their free will. Like one devotee was saying to me, and it really struck deep, like she was saying to me that, for us, we've just become devotees because, we heard the Maha Mantra and we joined up. We didn't come from a family, our parents weren't devotees. And when we are under pressure, when you scratch us, then all our past conditioning comes up. All our tendencies come up, like, I get angry if somebody does this, Whereas the second generation devotees, people who were born into the movement, like, even though they're not practicing now and they're doing drugs and they're drinking alcohol and they're, doing all sorts of nonsense, but when they're under pressure, you scratch them and only Krishna comes out. So it was like, yeah, actually, that's pretty true. So we can't really judge. Ultimately, it's in Krishna's eyes as to who is where. And, that reminds me of this poem by Mahatma Prabhu. It's really nice, this poem. He says, judge not. And then he goes, and the whole poem is like, do you know what I'm talking about? No? Anyway, I'll tell you. So it's like, he says, judge not, the title of the poem. And then the whole poem's like, I went to Goloka Vrindavan, I died and I went to Goloka Vrindavan, and there was the temple president who had stolen from Krishna twice. And there was the secretary who'd, gone off with 2 women. And there was this person who'd done this and that. And I was shocked, and I stood there and I thought, how could they have made it back to Goloka Vrindavan? And then my guru was next to me, and then I said to my guru, how is this one here? How is that one there? And why is everybody so quiet? And my guru said to me, well, Prabhu, they were not expecting that you would be able to make it to Goloka Vrindavan. So it was like the punchline was really funny. And so we can't really see who is who in Krishna's eyes, And the main thing is, we don't really know who's standing first, who's standing second. So from our point of view, we just respect everybody. And the first thing is, we have to be very careful about not offending devotees, because that burns our whole devotional life. We have to be careful of that. Like, But at the same time, again, that's like a big topic. But on the whole, just being really careful of not offending a devotee. And it's different if somebody thinks, oh, I'm a devotee, nobody should offend me. Like, again, that's not the mentality we should have. A devotee, a genuine devotee is actually very humble, and they can't really be offended easily. It's not like they're waiting, to be offended and then saying, I'm a devotee, how can you offend me? It's not like that. They're actually very hard to offend because they don't think themselves as devotees. So that's really, who are devotees. Sorry, Prabhu, you wanted to say something? That's amazing. Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. So, for those who didn't hear and for those who might listen online, Prabhu said that he really likes this from Saint Francis of Xavier. And Saint Francis says that I preach every day and sometimes I even use words. It's interesting, St. Francis of Xavier, I went to Xavier College, I went to a Catholic school, so, yeah, St. Francis of Assisi, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yes. So, we preach by example, actually. That's the purport of that we really need to be walking the talk, as Mataji said. Yeah, use the mic. So, people who might listen online.
At the church, Christian church, somewhere around Australia, I don't remember which even one place, and there was a board and it was written there, just love everyone, and I sort them out.
Yeah, that's so true. Just love everybody and I sort them out. Yeah. Our problem is we tend to become the judge and jury, and we try to just, punish everybody like we become the boss. But that's actually Krishna's job. Yeah. We just need to love everybody, try not to be judgmental, yet look after our spiritual lives at the same time and have good association. So it's quite a challenge, just trying to do the right thing. And that's why it's described that bhakti is like walking on the edge of a razor. It's it's a sharp path. You have to be careful. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? No. Thank you so much for your association. Jai Srila Prabhupada.